Hey folks, this is Hibernian 1960. In my previous video, I went over this Breitbart article where they were talking about climate change and arguing about whether it was a greater threat than terrorism. And basically what I pointed out was that you can't talk about climate change unless you talk about geoengineering. And if you talk about geoengineering, you probably should talk about the weather derivatives, the weather futures that are purchased on Wall Street. Okay, so that was my previous video. So with this video here, what I'd like to do is just point out a few of the ways that geoengineering is being used. And before I start, let's see, where is it? Oh, right here, I think. Yeah, let me show you John O'Brien, CIA director, basically saying that they use geoengineering and using stratospheric aerosol injection, SAI, which is just a fancy way to say chemtrails.
Another example is the array of technologies, often referred to collectively as geoengineering, that potentially could help reverse the warming effects of global climate change. One that has gained my personal attention is stratospheric aerosol injection, or SAI. A method of...
Okay, so I just wanted to show that real quick, just to establish the fact that geoengineering is admitted by the government. And if you type in geoengineering on Google or any other search engine, what you're going to come up with is this. Most of it's chemtrails, showing you chemtrails, but in between you have a lot of these little pictures, animated pictures of what looks like some detailed something going on. Like here we have ocean water being pulled out and pumped up into the sky, and that's being used for precipitation. I don't know if any of this stuff here is possible. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But all we can do is go by what we can prove. And also, like I said, by what the government is admitting to. So I'll just go down here a little bit, show you a few more. Most, like I said, a lot of it's just chemtrails, showing the globe Earth that NASA supposedly took from the moon, which that's also in question, of course. Okay, one of the, other than chemtrails, one of the ways that weather manipulation is being done is through these towers here. This is NexRad, and NexRad stands for Next Generation Radar. If you watch your local news, they'll call it Doppler radar, and what they're basically showing you is that they're scanning the weather using this. But as we'll see, what it does is that it's being used to heat up the atmosphere. And when the atmosphere is being heated up, it'll create a high pressure system. And high pressure systems, what that does is if you have a low pressure system coming in, the low pressure system will go around it. So I know in Southern California here, what they'll do is they'll create high pressure systems to prevent it from raining or push the rain up or up further north. So this is what they look like. They're about 40 feet in diameter, and yeah, they're showing, these other maps they're showing are infrared maps, and they're all taken from the NOAA website, the NOAA, which is the National Ocean and Atmospheric Administration. Let me go here to One Pacific Redwood. Here, let me get to the right spot here. I didn't set this up properly. Here he talks about the NexRad and how it's being used. If you look here, oops, I went too far. If you look here, you'll see that, see these straight lines? There's really not supposed to be any straight lines in weather. And if you follow these, if you put a straight edge on these, it probably send you right back to around here. You can see the splash pattern. After you look at a bunch of these, they start to become obvious. And if you look on Google Earth, you could actually zoom in and find, if you're diligent enough, you can actually find some of these. I've found a few of them. I would follow these back and look in a general area, and it would take a while, but I would find those radon, I guess they can call them, I think they're called radon towers. So with that, let's listen to what he has to say here.
Telecast Doppler radar map, we can see that right here near Sacramento, we've got an area of precipitation that's been chopped up. We see the straight edges here. These all triangulate to that Doppler transmitter that is probably in Sacramento, which is known as KDAX, Sacramento. These NexRad Doppler radars, I'll just hold up my sheet here. I've got a piece of paper. If you're not familiar with these, this is what these look like. These are golf ball radomes here. They're stacked on a tower that's about 6 stories high.
Oh, I said radon. I meant radome.
These are run by the NOAA. You can see the logo right down here. And they're also managed by the Department of Defense. And some of us would...
Okay, so there's that. Lastly, I wanted to show you Dr. Michio Kaku, the scientist, American scientist, talking about lasers. Of course, the NexRad I just showed you, the Doppler radar, is not, they're not lasers, but this is something that I really didn't know about, and I found this, and I thought it was interesting that they're experimenting with lasers, and at the end he says, but they work, whatever that means. I think they're using them to do both, to create drought and to create rain. We're in a weather war, folks, and the government has admitted it, and I'm sure that's a term that's very broad, you know, whether it's from nation to nation or it's just the nation against its people. That would still qualify as a weather war. And also the fact that there's a lot of weather futures being purchased by very wealthy people, and they would, of course, want to control the weather for those purposes.
Everyone complains about the weather, but no one ever does anything about it. Well, instead of doing a rain dance, we physicists are firing trillion-watt lasers into the sky to actually precipitate rain clouds and actually bring down lightning bolts. This is potentially a game changer.
But this is experimental.
It's experimental. However, in the laboratory so far it works. When you have water vapor and you have dust particles or ice crystals, you can precipitate rain. It condenses around the seeds. These seeds can also be created by laser beams. By firing trillion-watt lasers, you rip apart the electrons, creating what are called ions, and these ions act like seeds, like dust particles, bringing down...
Okay, so they're creating more ions. He's probably talking about, I would think he's talking about positive ions. Anyhow, that's a technology that we really can't, other than them speaking about it, we don't have any other proof as far as like looking at the weather or some of the NOAA maps. So basically, I just wanted to point out that there is geoengineering going on. The government is admitting to it. The next generation radar, chemtrails are two main ways that the weather is manipulated. And now Dr. Michio Kaku admits to that the government is using lasers. So with that, I am out. Thank you for watching.